Good morning and welcome to this beautiful Sunday for another episode of Belly Up Fantasy Live, Dynasty Edition. And we are inching further into the summer here. It is now officially July, which means we are getting awfully close to the time of some redraft drafts, some Dynasty drafts. Probably already started happening with the rookie drafts now that some guys have found some teams, started signing. But we're getting close to the football season here. Fantasy season is in full swing. I think we had the first Scott Fishbowl live drafts happen in Chicago over the weekend. So that is things are starting to roll here. So we are going to get it rolling here, and we're going to go down and say hello to Chase. Good morning, Chase, on this beautiful Sunday.
Good morning. Good to see you all. Welcome back, guys.
It's been a while.
It's been a while for you.
I know it's been a while for me. 2 weeks away, but hey, you crushed it in the absence. You guys killed it last week. It was a fantastic show. So congrats on that.
Thank you. Crushed something anyway.
A few beers in that bar, I'm sure. But
I heard that crack. It's time to go.
And Mr. Kevin, Mr. Wilson over there hanging out on the road this week. How are you?
That's right.
Jumping back in with me as well.
I'm doing great. I'm coming to you live from my mom's dining room in Utah. All right. So I'm way outside my element, but I'm here. So it's all working out. Glad to be here. Glad to see you guys.
The important part is that they have internet in Utah. So shocker of the century. And coming back to just provide us with some fantastic conversation. As always, we'll always welcome him back, Mr. Justin Herrera at Semtex. Max, how are you this morning?
Hey, guys, it's always a pleasure to be on. For some reason, when you said I'm at my mom's house, I immediately thought to Wedding Crashers when he's like, Mom, get the meatloaf.
Mom! Great scene. That is a great scene. I could see Kevin yelling that out, too. Always good to have Justin back here.
Always is, Justin. Always. Salute to Justin.
Yeah, and if you've been wondering where Justin is, Justin's been hanging out a lot over on the TSS Fantasy Show with those guys, and they've been killing it. And Justin has a persona that it hangs out over there. He's the Fantasy Jesus. I just looked at you and I was reminded of that, Justin. Like, just real fast here, I'll give you a chance. What does Fantasy Jesus do?
Oh, he saves your fantasy lineups, bro.
Okay.
Coming out with the 10 commandments of every dynasty league. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, we talked about this a couple weeks ago, Andrew. Justin takes them to heaven after I get done with them. That's what it is.
That's it. That's it.
So I guess take Kevin's advice with a grain of salt here, maybe. I don't know, but anyways, we're gonna have a fun time. So yeah, we're tackling the AFC North today, and I wanted to jump on this division first, just because I feel like with all the talk going around about the AFC West, and which deservedly so, the hype that's with those teams, the juggernauts that those teams seem to be. I think there's still some interesting stories coming out of the North here. You know, for one, Baltimore's going to have their running backs back, it looks like, between Edwards and Dobbins. They seem to be healthy. So I just heard a report yesterday, Lamar Jackson is put on like 20 pounds of muscle, or like 15, 25, 20 pounds over that of muscle. So maybe he's going to kind of kick that injury bug to the curb. We'll see. But then the Steelers, everyone's looking at the Steelers and saying that they're going to have a bad season. The downgrade a quarterback from Big Ben to Mitch Trubisky. But is everyone forgetting how bad Big Ben was at the end of last year and really throughout that season? There's way too much hate on Mitch Trubisky considering the situation he came from in Chicago. So I think there's some storylines here, and especially in Dynasty, there's young guys like Chase and Higgins and Chubb still that are going to be relevant. So I want to go kind of team by team and talk about some of these guys that you can look to go out and get probably at a value right now, especially if you have someone that is in the AFC West who is getting all this hype that you might be able to sell a little high on it and get one of these guys who are going to be maybe more consistent for years to come. So I want to talk about the Steelers first, because like I said, I mentioned Trubisky. I think the offense is going to be all right with Trubisky at quarterback. It would be more all right than Kenny Pickett, I think, starting the season. So Najee Harris is still like a must-add for me in Dynasty. If I can get him in Dynasty, like he's a must-have for me at running back, and I just feel like there's been no hype about him all summer this year. I get the sense you guys are all agreeing with me on Najee Harris here, but why do you think he's just not getting the hype? Do you think it's just because the division's for some reason people looking down on the division this year, or are they just no big storylines coming out of Pittsburgh?
Well, I don't think it's a hard sell to
Yeah.
agree with you that Najee Harris is gold in Dynasty right now. I mean,
Mhm.
he's young. He's in the age, the wheelhouse that we want. But he's also one of the true volume backs in the league, if last year's usage is any indication. I mean, do we all forget he had the 19 catches in the one game? Or he's not just a bell cow carrier. He can stay on the field and he receives the football. He had 10 touchdowns last year. 3 of them came, through the air, 74 catches. He's a good, legitimate receiving football player. In addition to the fact that he runs the ball well and he's the Steelers kind of back. There's not a lot behind him. So I don't think Benny Snell is any threat to take playing time away from Najee Harris. He's just not. They got Anthony McFarland Jr. now and Trey Edmonds and that, but I don't see anybody that's a threat to him for that true number one role. And they are a team that traditionally here in the last, especially in the talent, they have given the ball to one running back. They have not been a Shanahan type offense or a New England type offense that wants to give the ball to 13 guys every quarter. So I don't think that's any kind of hard sell to say that he's a giant in dynasty realms in terms of the running back position. He's good in any format for that matter. I don't think he's necessarily getting a ton of hype because, we saw it last year. And I think people are discounting the team because of the change at quarterback. And like you said, Roethlisberger, he was throwing about like Cam Newton at the end of the year last year. He was just not, he just did not have the arm that Ben Roethlisberger had earlier in his career. He was not the same player. Clearly there's a reason that they, were not as successful there. I don't understand why Najee Harris himself isn't getting the love. They've still got, like you said, they've still got some weapons on this team and some fantasy relevant guys. They still have a very good receiving core. They've got a very good young tight end who we can talk about a little bit later that is going to be golden dynasty. But if somehow Najee Harris is under the radar in your league, see if you can grab him because holy cow, he's it to have right now.
Well, and it might be more that he's undervalued in redraft for some reason right now because I see him coming off at like running back 5 or between like running back 5 and 8, which I feel like even in redraft is too low. He is a bit more valued in the top 3 in Dynasty, but even so, he's someone like Christian McCaffrey, who we've talked about in depth about how his injuries and like can you really trust him in Dynasty is like right behind him. And I feel like that like Christian McCaffrey should be nowhere near him right now in Dynasty just because I think it's the torch has been passed at this point. But there's other guys. So you mentioned Benny Snell, which is interesting because I had a thought, and I may be off, so I'm going to spitball here with you guys. But I had a thought when it comes to the Pittsburgh offense because you said that that the type of offense who was always just kind of worked one running back, and I completely agree with that. Benny Smell, Jesus.
Like he hasn't heard that before.
Was not meaning to do that because I like Benny Snell. Benny Snell.
There goes him ever being on the show.
There you go. That's your analysis right there.
Yeah. Benny Snell seems to have slimmed out a bit, gotten a bit more agile and athletic in the offseason this year. And it's kind of reminded me of the way Trubisky was successful in Chicago when he had the Montgomery and the Tariq Cohen and kind of 1-2 punch. And now I agree with you that I don't necessarily think Pittsburgh is going to run their offense in a way where they're going to be giving Snell as many carries as Cohen had or touches in general. But it is an interesting situation where for some reason Najee Harris goes down. I'm not discounting having Benny Snell as a late handcuff ad and if it's a deeper league, because I think he could be in this offense very useful as like a running back 3 if he had to step up and take on that lead role. Justin and Kevin, do either one of you feel anything towards Benny Snell like I do as a chance?
Well, I've got Najee Harris in one of my leagues, and I don't even think that Benny Snell as a handcuff has any value right now at all. And so if something were to happen to Benny Snell, I'm fairly confident I could get him off the waiver wire.
Mhm.
So
Right.
I'm not even looking at his name. And one of the things about Najee Harris, he led the entire NFL in touches last year, the entire NFL. And that was with they didn't have that great offensive line. I think maybe that's part of why they're not looking at him. So because Ben's not there and they didn't have a good offensive line, they need that offensive line to be able – because he only averaged 3.7 yards a carry. That's not going to cut it in your lead running back, but then he compensates that with his catches. And so I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen with Najee Harris coming into this season. And if you're starting a dynasty draft, he's got to be on your radar in that first round, wherever you're picking. I'm looking at him because it's only a second year. And so he's going to be there, barring injury, for a long time. He's very high on my radar. And I'm not just saying that because he's on my team, because he's got to be on your radar if you're serious about dynasty football.
If you're in a league and you're competitive right now, if you're in an established league, if you've got a team that can be competitive and win now, check and see, and you don't have Harris, check and see if somebody's got him who's maybe middle of the pack, or maybe is in a rebuild. Maybe they don't realize they need to be in a rebuild. Maybe you can jumpstart their process there. If you can compete right now, he would be a giant ad. He could help make you competitive for the next couple of seasons here. I don't see any, to be honest with you, I don't see a lot of value in Benny Snell either. He played all 17 games last year. He averaged two carries a game and target every 4 or 5 games or so. He's just, they don't have a ton of confidence in him, or they wouldn't have pounded their rookie into the ground like they did last year.
Fair enough.
Yeah. But if he looks better, he's been there
Like
a
I
while.
said,
He is their
it wasn't
backup.
necessarily a take I was
No.
throwing out there as in this is my take. It was just a thought I had as I read the news. I kind of go through the different thoughts, like, I wonder what this could mean or what this could look like in this situation. So I like to spitball. But yeah, I don't disagree with you. And Justin, let's give you a chance to jump in on here because
backpedaling like a pro.
No, right. Justin, bring it.
I'm gonna actually bring I'm gonna be a devil's advocate here, because I'm actually not super high on Najee Harris myself. I think that he has value, but last year, if you look at his value, it was all in his volume. A couple things to check off here. They now have a running quarterback, whether it's Trubisky or Pickett. They both have wheels. They both have the ability to get out of there. Ben Roethlisberger was a perennial vet. He was a guy who couldn't move. He was a guy that literally would dump it off, and that was a lot of their run game. So that's, Najee Harris picked up all of that. He was eating for days. I think he was the only guy that outpaced Jonathan Taylor as far as opportunity share.
The best hands in that offense too.
Yeah, he was just all around. He was an all-around pro, and he was ready out of that Alabama offense. So taking it to that, he had the most yards created last year for a running back at 1,035, but he had the 24th best yards per touch created. So what I'm getting at is that he was not making stuff happen in open field. And that's something that I kind of worry about. It's efficiency numbers for me, is that I look at it as he had 4.4 yards per touch last year. That's okay, but that was also 41st in the league. That wasn't even a starting running back. You know what I mean? So when I look at that, I look at, the volume's going to go down because Trubisky's going to run the ball a little bit, or Pickett's going to run the ball a little bit. They're going to try and get it downfield. I've never known Trubisky to really be somebody who dumps it off at a astronomical number. Pickett seems like he's a bit of a smarter rookie quarterback, so he might be able to utilize Najee better, but he's also running with the threes right now. So that's the big thing out of camp right now, is Pickett's running with the threes. That means Rudolph's running with the twos. That means that they're not even sure that Pickett's ready to freaking, be on the scout team offense, let alone,
They are going to give him time to grow.
Yeah, exactly.
They do need to do that. If they don't do that, then why are you drafting them?
Right.
Well, here's the thing. You draft him as a first-round pick, so you're kind of expecting a little bit more from him. Right? Like when you took the chance at 20. So you're kind of expecting him to kind of be at least running with the twos right now, at least better than Mason Rudolph.
Well, if you're not
Mason Rudolph has been in that
Rudolph,
offense. We talked about this last week. We talked about this last week. Mason Rudolph has been in that offense for several years now. Kenny Pickett, these are his first snaps at the NFL level, let alone in a game or anything.
Yeah.
And they just signed Trubisky's only on a 2-year contract. He's a perfect
A 1 year
transitional
deal,
quarterback. Yeah, I mean, they can get out of it after 1 year.
1 year deal.
Yeah, they can get out of it after 1 year with no penalty, essentially. But he's on a 2-year contract. He's the prototypical transition quarterback. I think you let Pickett develop because you've got Mason Rudolph, who's been there for several years now and knows the offense. You've got Trubisky, who's brand ass new at the offense, and Pickett, who's brand new to the entire league. But then, I think they're fine with Kenny Pickett. I don't think they don't have a lack of confidence in him. I don't think they think he's ready right now, and I agree with them. And I think that's okay.
I don't think he's ready either. He's not close to ready.
Yeah.
Even with a first round grade on him, and even with a first round pick on him, they've got time to develop him, especially since they did get Trubisky. He was being able to pick Pickett was a luxury for them after they picked up Trubisky. But circling back to Najee Harris, the whole point about Najee Harris, I agree with you completely, is the biggest appeal for him is his volume.
Yeah.
Last time that Trubisky was a starting quarterback, he gave his running backs 130 targets over the course of the season. If you can keep giving his running back, who's Najee Harris, we know that nobody else is going to catch the ball in the backfield. If you give Najee Harris 130 targets, his volume is still there, whether he's running with it or not.
It's going to be there.
And his yards per touch, they had a terrible offensive line last year.
That's right. And that was dragged down by 3.7 yards per carry.
Right.
But they didn't really improve it, is my point. Like they brought in 2 guys from the Bears, and they brought in a guy from the Cardinals.
But if he has the same volume as last year with the same yards per touch last year and scores the same kind of points as last year, I'm still all in on. I'm still fine with that.
But as we found out from CMC, that's not realistic.
Yeah. No, he's not going to lead the NFL in touches this year. If he does, that's not good.
And he came in from Alabama as a touch monster as well. Mm-hmm. So it's really, you're grinding this guy's tires down to the very bare at this point. So my only point is that the volume
I'm a Browns fan. I'm fine with that.
Volume seems a little unrealistic. Also, to the Kenny Pickett thing, here's just one thing I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about next year's talent class for quarterback is way better than this past year's. You've got CJ Stroud, you got Will Levis, you've got Bryce Young, you got all this guys coming out. If they totally have to bail on Kenny Pickett, this could be a Josh Rosen thing. And Josh Rosen was way higher up there than Kenny Pickett.
That's true.
Well, they have to bail.
That's too bad for Pittsburgh because my Seattle Seahawks are going to get one of those top quarterbacks. So just so you know.
You guys already have
we know that, Kev. We know that, Kev.
You guys have Drew Lock, you have Geno Smith, and you have Baker Mayfield.
Chase, stop it.
Says the man wearing a Broncos t-shirt.
Well, you got to do it. So, you go where the talent is, and that's in Denver right now.
What? One bad year and he's jumping shift. Jumping ship.
He's not even cheering for laundry at this point anymore.
Well, and here's the other side of the Steelers' offense is you gotta expect that the rest of the offense is gonna also take a step. You gotta hope, I guess, maybe not expect, but hope the rest of the offense is gonna take a step forward with someone who's more willing to move the ball downfield, like Trubisky, than Big Ben was able to. So you got to think someone like Deontay Johnson, maybe even Chase Claypool, first of all, is coming into the season way too much confidence. He needs to chill.
Yeah, because he's number 3 wide receiver in the entire NFL. Did you know that?
Yeah. He needs to simmer down a little bit, but
he's not even burdening the entire NFL. If the entire NFL was just his team,
he needs to make the argument he's number 3 on his own team, let alone the NFL.
But he needs to win that argument.
Their offense as a whole should still be able to function better than it did last year. So someone like Pat Freiermuth, who's got a ton of fight last year.
As far as Dynasty is, in my Dynasty league, I went out and got Mitch Trubisky in both leagues. In both my leagues. He's going to be a starter this year. And if you're in a 2-quarterback league, he's got value. And I am, so I went and got him.
Kev, do you have him as your QB3 or your QB2? Please say QB3.
He's my QB4.
There you go. There you go.
He's not my QB2, Justin. I'm not insane. All right. So
how big's the league, Kevin? How big's the league? How many
I know
teams are
you're
there?
not. I just wanted to make sure.
It's
You
a
said that with a lot of
12-player
enthusiasm.
league.
Okay, 12-player league, so there's 24 starting quarterbacks,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got him at,
and
if-
you've
as
got him
QB4.
as your 4.
Yeah, I
He-
take
there's no reason
There's
he
value.
couldn't be a QB2. Even in a 12-team league, he
No,
could be a
no,
QB2.
no,
Yeah, that's-
no,
that's
no, no.
in a super
Ben
Yeah,
was a
let's not-
QB2, so yeah, there's no way that he shouldn't be a
let's not get
QB2.
crazy. All right, let's not get
No,
crazy.
but I'm saying like that's a good ad. If you've got him as
That
a
is a good
4
ad.
when he could be a QB2, you're sitting okay at that position, man. I'd
Right.
be looking
So
to
if
make some
somebody
deals.
gets hurt, I'm in good shape.
Yes, I'd be looking to make some deals there and pick up some
Mhm.
value. Also, I don't know what the rest of your roster looks like, but geez.
Well, who's your QB3?
Yeah.
Well,
You
who
know,
do
I'd
you
have
who's
to-
your other
QB3?
3 total? Period. Who's
Well,
your
well,
other 3?
yeah.
Well, I got, of course, Russell Wilson. All right,
Okay.
got to do that. And then the other one is Top. All right, I'll show you. I'll
Tom,
go
he's
into
gonna
it.
show you. And look, here's the reason why I'm asking, because I do believe that to have Trubisky as a QB4 for this year, and maybe even next year if he does stick around, like, is fantastic for your team.
But
But
next
if
year,
you-
I'm not worried about whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's just this year.
But the point that I'm trying to make, depending on who your QB3 is that, especially in a 2 QB league, if you need some help at another position, then I would trade that QB3 and ride
Holy hell,
Trubisky as my QB3 and strengthen my team somewhere else 100%.
That's it.
Depending on who
He
your
gets a
QB3
couple good games, and then you just trade him off. You trade
Yeah,
him off,
right.
you get way more value
You
than
can
you
certainly
would get.
do that.
Or
You can
that, or
certainly
you
do
go
that.
that route, yes. But yeah, so what are you on dial up for your fantasy team?
Well, as you already observed, this is
Utah,
this
give a
is
break.
Utah. There's still dinosaurs running around here. So
They got internet by Pony Express, man.
that's right. The Pony Express and one of the legs are broken. So it's really not working out very well right here.
Yeah, that's when they usually shoot the horse. Is one of the legs are broken.
Right. Had to bail on that.
I could hear a gun getting cocked in the background. So we're definitely going downhill right now.
But it was just, so you're still looking for, okay, so you look for your QB3 then, but
Hey,
Yeah.
so how about this? So I actually I'm in on Claypool because I've been hearing all the news that Claypool's going in the slot,
yes.
and I'm like, that
I'm
is
with that.
dangerous as all hell.
He's
I
the one
got
that's
him the
putting
best
out
Say
all
player
the
what you
best
scores.
want
ball
about
league.
the guy. He is pretty damn fucking fast. That's why he's been a deep ball threat. He is 6'4" and he's a freak athlete.
Yes.
Well, that was the problem. That's been the problem within the last few years. They have a deep wide receiver core.
Mm-hmm.
Their wide receiver room is one of the deepest in the league. Their top of their wide receiver room with Deontay Johnson is right up there with anybody else's. But they're a team that's built where you could toss that thing deep, and the problem is Roethlisberger can't throw it from me to the camera.
Yeah.
That's right.
anymore.
That's
and
right.
So they kept
And he
trying
couldn't
to
run the
shoehorn-
ball either. He couldn't run it from you to the
He
No,
had his
not-
best
not
QB
anymore.
rating from 1 to 5 yards. That's how
Right.
you know how
And
fucking
that's
good
the
he is.
problem.
And they were
Matt
misusing
Canada
Clay-
trying to shoehorn guys into an offense that just doesn't,
and
you got a
Claypool
quarterback
was
that can't throw and
yeah.
receivers that can run. Like
Claypool was being
Well, yeah,
used as a
Tomlin
downfield
totally-
guy too, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
They were using him as a downfield guy, and now it sounds like they're finally coming around to use his speed and his size in the slot, especially when they have guys like Pickens and Austin coming in, and they got veterans like Anthony Miller and now Miles Boykin, who are more speedsters downfield guys. Like, it affords Claypool to play a more advantageous role for himself.
Yeah.
I'm not out on Claypool at all. I actually, like I said, I got him in a best ball draft. I really like Claypool this year. I just had to laugh when he called himself the number 3 receiver in the league. Like, that's just let's be a little more humble
Well-
than that, my man.
Claypool does have some of the best size in that receiver room too. He is their
Yes.
He's got
giant.
the size. Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
the dude
yeah,
is.
the rest of the guys are not necessarily, giants. So
Yeah.
he's a big dude.
There was a
Yeah.
reason they went out and said this guy is Mapletron because he is the closest thing to Megatron as far as overall size and height that we've seen in a long
Right.
time.
I mean, he's got a half a foot on Deontay Johnson.
Yeah.
I
So
mean,
it-
Yeah,
but-
easily.
who is-
Easily.
who is
But these
their
are all
number
reasons why I feel like people are sleeping on the Steelers in general this year. Like, they're just assuming they're going to be like a bottom 2 or 3 team in the AFC.
But-
I think
Oh,
they're
yeah.
gonna. I think they're gonna surprise. I see them. Honestly, I see them similar to the Patriots. Like, your 9-8 status, somewhere right around there. 9-8, 10-7, or at the worst, 8-9, somewhere right in that window is where I see them.
Yeah, and we can't ever forget that their defense is going to keep them in a lot of games.
Exactly.
Right, but that's the problem I was seeing, because their secondary is ranked 25th in the entire NFL, so they could be in a lot of offensive games this year.
They want their
so
defense
it
to keep
doesn't
them
look
in
like
games,
they're
but
typical Pittsburgh defense at all. So they could be in some shootouts this year.
I don't know if their defense is going to keep them in games. I think their defense will keep Chase Claypool in the passing game relevant in a lot of games, unfortunately. But unfortunately for them, but for fantasy purposes, hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Definitely. Kevin,
they're always like one of those teams that I really like whoever their defensive coordinator is. I can't say it off the top of my mind because they always get the best out of everybody they put on the field. Like they're one of those teams.
Get that all the way around.
Yeah,
offense,
exactly.
Defense, special teams. You know, the ball guy and everybody else, the one that take the tickets. They're all. It's a class organization.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. So, Kevin, before we move on to some other teams, did you ever find your QB3?
No. You know, remember, I'm in hell. Okay. Over here.
So you
don't tell mom.
Can't look.
She sits right next to me, so she just gave me a dirty look, just so you know.
As the cross,
I got
Jesus
the stink guy right here.
Your background.
I've seen that look.
You're in hell. I love it. Ask her how she feels about Justin being fantasy Jesus.
That'll be big in Utah.
I think I might get my own mural now.
So let's move
got the
on.
state glass to Maryland.
Because we do still got 3 teams left in this division that all have interesting storylines between the Ravens, the defending conference champ Bengals, and the Cleveland Browns, who have the Deshaun Watson saga, which really is, when it comes to the Browns, that's really the only storyline they got going for them right now. Because when you take that away, you look at the rest of their team, and it's a bit underwhelming. If you ask me,
underwhelming is a great word, Andrew. Underwhelming.
Yeah,
exactly.
And look, the fact of the matter is, Deshaun Watson could get the most out of the guys on that team, but
absolutely, there's no doubt about that.
But the NFL has straight out come out and said that they are looking for a full season suspension. So if that's their starting point,
season plus, from what they're saying.
Yeah. So if that's their starting point, you got to think the best case scenario here for Watson is probably still missing like 8 games.
Yeah.
I'd say
if all he misses is 8 games, then Cleveland needs to be doing a handstand.
Right.
Well, yeah, exactly. So
they've got an easy early portion of the schedule where they could still come out of an 8-game suspension at 500 or better. They could, with the rest of their roster. You might think it's underwhelming, but it's a deep roster. It's not top heavy, but it's a deep enough roster and a talented enough roster, and they've got an easy enough schedule early in the year. They could still come out of it at 500 or better at 8 games with Jacoby Brissett. He's been a starter before. He's not a terribly inefficient quarterback.
He's tough too. He's a tough player.
I mean, he came from New England.
Yep.
There was a reason that they took him and they used him and got what they could from him. But if he's their starting quarterback, obviously it's a downgrade for guys like Cooper and Njoku and Donovan Peoples-Jones. But I
actually don't think it's too big of a downfall for at least a couple.
He's a good
passer.
He's not a terrible passer.
So he's a good deep ball passer.
Cooper is still going to be their number one. He's still a number one wide receiver. Cooper didn't have that great a year for you last year. If you had him, I mean, he was serviceable. He was usable, but he wasn't a superstar for you last year. But they still have Nick Chubb. They still have Kareem Hunt.
So
they could still be okay.
So dynasty-wise, I'm still interested in Chubb and Hunt because they've proven that tandem just works for both of them to be productive. So dynasty-wise, I think they're both have the health and the production to be useful for a couple more years there. And I don't see them changing that backfield up anytime soon. So I'm still interested in Chubb and Hunt dynasty-wise. I'm not terribly interested in anybody else on this team for dynasty purposes over the next few years because I don't believe that Cooper at this point is going to be consistent enough for me to want to go out and get him for the next couple of years. I just don't
want him as one of my top 2.
Yeah, sure. He's going to be the team's number 1, but I don't view him as much value dynasty-wise for the next couple of years. I just don't want to be building my team around him.
He's an older guy too now, so
yeah,
it's not going to get better.
When he was still in Dallas, there was talk about CeeDee Lamb already, unseating him.
Well,
at the top
CeeDee
there.
Lamb is CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee
Amari
Lamb,
Cooper's
yeah.
only 28. 28 is not old for a receiver, though.
It seems
If he
like
was a
he's been
running
around
back,
a lot longer than that. He's got miles
seems
on
like
them
it.
tires.
This is his third team.
I was gonna say he started when he was 19 years old.
Yeah, part of the
Yeah,
problem is
so,
it's his third league. It's his third team too. So yeah, he has been around a while. But 28
He's
is
not
not
yet
old
quite
for a
yet a
receiver.
Ford, but he's getting there pretty soon.
Well, and the mental, the mental wear, the wear on his mental tires as well is something that concerns me going forward. Because at what point does he just say, like, I'm just gonna be what I can be to live my career out in the NFL here? Because he's gone from the Raiders to Dallas and now to these, and they've all been kind of unstable situations while he's been there. Dallas was going to be the most stable, but then they had injury issues and everything was all over the place for him. So at what point does Amari Cooper just kind of say, like, maybe I'm going to go out there and just make sure I survive
He's capable of being so good.
He's not going to say that while they're paying him. So
his
you don't
first
have to
year
worry
in
about that.
Dallas was amazing.
Yes, it was.
He has the talent, and he is now the unquestioned number one on that team. And he's 28. He's got 10 years if he wants as a receiver, possibly. Yeah, well, maybe not. Maybe 6 or 7.
No.
But he's only
just because of
28.
his injury history. He's been injured quite a bit too.
28 is not old for a receiver. I'm just saying, I'm not sleeping on him. I don't want him as one of my top.
If you have him, don't be looking to shove him out the door or anything.
I don't want him as one of my top 2. I won't necessarily be looking at him in redraft a ton because I think his name value will take him earlier in a redraft situation than I want to pay for him.
Yes.
But in a dynasty situation with Deshaun Watson as his possible quarterback and him being the unquestioned number one on the team, I want to go with that. I'm okay having him there.
See, I think in Dynasty, this is the time I'm looking to trade him.
I think so. I'm going to go with you on that.
I'm going to go to the
I get a good offer, he's out the door.
I'm going to go to the backs with you on that one because the backs they are out of the golden range for running back age. They're getting older. They're aging out. There's already talk of Kareem Hunt being moved on. They signed Dearness Johnson to an extension, and Dearness Johnson showed when both of those guys were hurt that Dearness Johnson can be a running back in this league. I think you probably can get more value out of the name value of a Chubb or maybe a Hunt than you could trying to trade Amari Cooper. It's a wide receiver league. There's 860,000 usable wide receivers.
Fair. Yep.
Chubb is a big carrot to dangle in front of somebody, especially if you can get somebody younger, or if you can get something in a position if you don't need him. If you've got a deep backfield on your own team and you need help somewhere else, Chubb has name value, and he's getting aged out of that sweet spot. He's still going to get the run this year, but he has gotten hurt a little bit lately. He is getting older for a running back. I'm more concerned about Chubb in a dynasty format than I am about Cooper.
Fair enough. I think there's some. Sorry, go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, so I'm not worried about Chubb at all. I'm more worried about Hunt. Hunt has zero money guaranteed as far as like a dead cap right now. He could be cut right now any day if he really wanted to. And for some reason, Hunt is through the roof in the fantasy community. Everybody thinks, oh, he's coming back. He's going to do great. And everybody's bullish on getting Chubb off their rosters. I want to read off something real quick for you.
Mm-hmm.
Chubb in the past 3 years has averaged 5.4 yards per carry. Every single year, 5 yards a carry at least. This guy is incredibly efficient. He is every metric of efficiency. He is in the top 5. Even passing yards. Everybody's like, oh, he doesn't get the ball. He doesn't pass. He doesn't get receptions. 8.7 yards. That's more than Kareem Hunt was getting per reception.
And if you remove Hunt from the equation,
that's certainly
the Cleveland Browns also have one of the best. The Cleveland Browns also have one of the best offensive lines, or have had one of the best offensive lines in the entire league.
But he's been doing it for 3 years now. So I'm looking at this as this guy is crazy. He had 92 evaded tackles last year. That's juking and breaking tackles.
Yeah,
he's just a monster in open field. As far as aging out goes, he hasn't had 1,000 carries. Like that's something big. Tread on the tires. He was from the Georgia system. Georgia ran with him and Sony Michel. Like
I guess I would rather be Bill Belichick on him. I'd rather get rid of him a year early than a year late.
No, I
in a
completely
dynasty
understand.
format.
But what I'm
And
trying to
and it
pitch to
depends
you
on, it
is he's
depends
got
on your
3.
roster. No, okay.
That's
It
what I'm
depends
trying
on
to
your
pitch.
roster
He's got
makeup
3
too.
years.
If you've got a bunch of guys on your roster, if you got a bunch of young dudes on your roster, you got Najee Harris and and the like, and AJ Dillon and whatever. Yeah, okay, yeah, ride with him. But if your backfield is like CMC and Henry somehow, or a bunch of guys that are starting to age out and getting older, you might be able to grab something for him. I would rather be Bill Belichick on him than hang on to him too long and now I've got nothing, or I'm going to get pennies on the dollar for him.
You can farm them out to me. I'll take them. Right there.
I'm a Browns fan. I love him. I'm thrilled that they have him. I would be thrilled to have him. But
I'm still in on Nick Chubb right now in Dynasty.
So I want to throw a
Absolutely.
couple other guys out there. How do you guys feel about Donovan Peoples-Jones?
yes.
Oh, the law firm?
Yes.
Yeah.
The new law firm, I should say. No, Ben Jarvis Green Ellis is
Right.
ancient history.
No, I am
That's
in
what it
on
is.
him.
He ranks right up there with Better Call Saul. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Wow. Kev loves him that much. I got you.
I think it
Donovan Peoples-Jones was a very good receiver, and now he's the number 2, and he possibly has a quarterback coming up. Up. We know that.
Exactly.
We know it's.
You know,
gonna be Brissett
it
at
would
least
certainly
early.
be good if the NFL would just go ahead and decide what they're going to do with Deshaun Watson. So
Yes.
everybody else
That's
can
a
then
big
decide
thing.
to do what the hell they're going to put on their team, who deserves to be on their team, who should get the boot.
That was
Nobody can
half our
figure
show
this out
last
until
week.
it's not like this happened last year, right? Or last
Right.
week. It's
I
been
don't get
going
what they're
on
still
for
looking
2
at.
years now.
Yeah.
Make a decision.
You've
Come
said
on.
your
NFL.
I think the biggest
investigation is
problem
over.
is that they got nothing really on him other than
Mhm.
people's testimonies. Like
Well,
they
didn't
tried
have
to
anything
indict
on
him
Trevor
twice and
Bauer
it didn't
either.
work.
They threw him down a rat's hole for 2 straight years. So,
But here's the thing,
baseball
Kev.
is
We just got off
nothing
the
like
defamation
NFL,
case
so-
that made news. Like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we've
Yeah.
got a lot of factors nobody wants to talk about. Everybody just wants to throw the book at him. And you know what? I'm not saying
Well,
that.
I'm not saying throw the book at him. Maybe they do need to throw it at him. I'm just saying make a decision.
Yeah. Had Bauer gone through the court stuff yet before they threw that at him?
What's up?
Had Bauer gone through the court stuff yet before they threw
No.
that at? Before
No,
No,
baseball
but
threw that at
baseball
him?
does
the-
everything
The
on their
court refused
Baseball's weird.
to indict him. No, so
See, that's-
he's in the same kind of situation as Deshaun Watson. The
That
courts
is awkward because
yes, the courts, said, hey, there's not enough evidence here.
Yeah.
And so then all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, baseball came in and said, you're
2
gone
years.
for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is awkward because that's essentially what the courts or the grand juries said in terms
Right.
of
So
criminally.
the grand jury said
They
there's
said the same thing to
nothing
Watson.
to see here.
And the NFL has a history of punishing guys before anything
That's what I'm
legal
saying.
has happened.
Baseball comes in nowhere near like the NFL. The
They
NFL
talked to
will
him
throw
for
you
3
down a
days.
friggin' off the plateau just for, you didn't help the old lady across the street.
They
so come
talked
on
to
now.
him for 3 days this week, and nothing has come
That's
out of
right.
it. It was like,
So
what the
Make a
hell? Yeah.
decision, NFL. Come on now.
So I think
Well, I
we
think
all
what's
agree.
happening is I think that the disciplinary agent might not be fucking so keen on giving him the book, and they're probably trying to figure out how they can work this because I think they're going to give him a suspension regardless because it's the NFL. They have to keep up their image for the shield, all that stuff, but it's just, it's such a.
Is the
cluster
problem
F
here
in
that
situation.
Sue Robinson is a judge? Is she trying to apply legal doctrine and legal thought process to
But that's the
private
reason.
situation? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
she's not acting in any kind of legal capacity
No.
right now necessarily. She's acting as
No.
as an agent for a private
Disciplinary
business. And so is she like, well, I can't give him anything because he hasn't been prosecuted for anything or he hasn't been found liable in anything. And I mean, I'm not saying that's it. I'm just saying is that maybe where the holdup is coming in terms of just getting the damn final
think it
word
might
out.
end up being, to be honest, because she's taking the actual law aspect of this and going, well, he hasn't really been proven guilty of anything.
Yeah.
Like,
and he settled 20
Most
and
of them.
24.
Yep.
Yeah.
And and we haven't heard anything from the other 4. So what can we really do to him? I don't know that that's the case. And I'm not trying to disparage in
does.
any way, shape, or form Sue Robinson for what she's doing in the job she's doing. I know I don't want to be in her situation. I don't think anybody does. But yeah, the only thing I can see that's caused this long a hang up, they started on Tuesday. We thought we'd have an answer by
Come on
Thursday or
now,
Friday.
that's what I'm
probably.
saying. Make a decision already.
Right?
This-
If
this
she's
started
applying
last
legal
year.
doctrine,
Yeah, they
if
started
she's
last
trying
year.
to apply a legal thought process.
But
You know,
speaking,
Chase, if they need some help, I'll step in and I'll throw them down a flight of stairs. I got no problem with doing that.
there we go. All right, but speaking of time, we
Love
we
it.
are way overdue
No,
for
yes,
our
we
ad
have
break
to
here, so
hear
we
from our
need
man.
to get to our
Which-
summer
yeah,
balls
we gotta,
here.
yeah, we gotta definitely help out the people that feed,
Just
feed us.
run the
Go ahead,
tape.
Andy.
I think next week I'm instituting a talking stick. Here we go.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Got Bush? You definitely do if you haven't tried the best products from our sponsor today, Manscaped. Taking control of your bush is important. These products are so good, you're going to be showing pride in your new bush-free yard. It's a fact that you will have the best-kept nutsack on the cul-de-sac. Save big and be the most hygienic version of yourself by using the discount code BELLYUPFANTASY for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. Whether you're looking to go bald like an eagle or just in need of a safe trim, Manscaped is dedicated to helping you level up your full body grooming game. The grooming package I highly recommend is the Performance Package 4.0. Inside this package is the Lawnmower 4.0. This electric trimmer is a bush worst nightmare. With a Performance Package purchase, you get 2 free gifts, the Shed Travel Bag and the patented high-performance reduced chafing Manscaped Boxers. They have a bunch of other products on their website too to help you maximize your confidence and grooming game. So that's 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at manscaped.com. It's time to level up your game from the Amazon to the Amadong with the ultimate bushwhacking tools from Manscaped. So one more time, that's 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code BELLYUPFANTASY at manscaped.com today. Hey,
Spend
You
your
know, you
money.
hit the big time when you're quoting Pink Floyd in your ad. So
I just love how cul-de-sac was worked into that ad. That's impressive, man. That is impressive. All right, so we spent some time on these first 2 teams, and I want to make sure we at least touch on the other 2 because look, we do have the defending AFC champs in the Cincinnati Bengals, and we have the Baltimore Ravens who have everything poised to make a comeback to being relevant in the AFC this year. So I want to touch on the Ravens first because for a lot of the reasons I say at the beginning of the show, between Lamar Jackson putting on pure muscle weight, between the running backs coming back, Mark Andrews is going to continue to be one of the league's top tight ends. And then you got what the most interesting part, though, where you can probably find some value now is the receivers. And like we've said, a receiver-heavy league here. What are we going to do with the Baltimore receivers between Bateman? Is he in my eyes, he's not.
You're
going to
take Bateman and you're going to let everybody else sit.
Okay, so Justin agrees with me. Everyone loves Bateman. I don't think he's a true number 1. I don't see it happening.
I don't know about love, Andrew.
Oh, were you agreeing with Chase or me? I couldn't tell.
I'm agreeing with you, Andrew. I don't know about love.
Okay, tell. So I want to hear.
I might like him.
What's love got to do with it? Got to do with it.
As I saw this one from Justin with both me and Chase talks, I got to figure out who he's in love, who he's agreeing with between the 2 of us here. But Kevin and then Justin, let's go.
Am I going, Justin? Is that what it is?
Oh, yeah. Kevin and then Justin.
First.
Okay.
If we wait for Kevin's internet to catch up, we'll be here.
Well, I'm here, am I? I'm here. So, beyond that, but yeah, so it's, I don't know if I'm in love. But he's a QB or a wide receiver 1. And so you've got to pay attention to him because he's a wide receiver 1.
He's a wide receiver 1 on his. Yes.
Yes.
So is Jacoby Myers
On his team, I'm talking about. Maybe not a wide receiver 1 in the NFL, but he's a wide receiver 1 for the Baltimore Ravens. And as such, if I'm not going to give him a high draft pick if I'm doing a dynasty draft today, but if you're coming around and it's the middle rounds and he's sitting around, that would be a worthy investment to me because anybody, like I'm saying, that's the number 1 on their team, you need to focus in on that because he's going to get every opportunity to succeed. And so in that aspect, I do like him, but I'm not ready to, go away on a 3-day weekend or anything. So that's the way I just look at it. And as far as these pounds are concerned, I don't know how I feel about that at all, because he's the guy, he's the mobile guy, as a quarterback. He's the guy that you want to look at as being a mobile guy. Is this going to affect that? If it does, then his fantasy value all of a sudden doesn't look as good.
I think it more so protects him from injury. I think that's the whole point of him trying to bulk up. He's trying to take some hits a little bit safer. If we should say that.
If he didn't take as many hits, this would be a better situation for him.
Yeah, well, he doesn't try to, Kev. He doesn't try to.
Yeah. Here's the thing with what the Ravens.
As good as he is, he's not Russell Wilson as far as getting away from the rush or getting down. Nobody can do that as well as Russell Wilson can. And so if he could get to be like that, he would be so much better as a quarterback, because then his chances of getting hurt are a lot less.
So I'm a Wisconsin fan, and I like Russ, but man,
yeah,
you got. Okay.
Oh, here's what I want to say.
Is that why you're in Utah? Are you trying to get closer to Denver?
That's right. I'm trying to maneuver my station, closer to where Russell Wilson is.
Right.
So that's
he's
what
trying to do private security for Russell Wilson.
He can call me up. I can give him up my number right now. I'll do that.
Okay, so when it comes to the Ravens, here's what worries me about everyone being so excited about Rashard Bateman and why I'm not going to take him. Because here's the thing. Lamar Jackson has only ever been able to support one productive wide receiver in Hollywood Brown.
And that's going to be him.
He's less talented than Hollywood Brown.
Yeah, I'm worried about that too, Andrew. That's going straight over to the tight end.
I don't believe, and that was going to be my point, because this is what we saw in the draft. Instead of strengthening, look, if they went out
they got 3 tight ends on their roster.
Hold on, Kevin.
And they only throw
Let me make my point.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Loud noises.
Here's my point, is that if they truly wanted to change the way their offense was, and that they wanted the receivers to have a bigger role, to lean more on Bateman, to help develop Duvernay up, they would have looked to strengthen that position in the draft more and in free agency. And what they did, they waited long to get receivers in the draft, and instead they went out and got Isaiah Likely,
2 tight ends
in the draft. And now they once again have 4 tight ends on the roster, still led by Mark Andrews.
Yeah, they got 7,000 tight ends over there.
They're still going to run this offense through Jackson's legs, through the running back's legs and catching abilities in the tight ends. Rashard Bateman will not have the volume and the same skill set to be a usable RB2 in this league.
Okay, so they're going to run their offense. They're going to run their offense through the legs of 37.5 broken running backs from last year and Mike Davis.
Because they've proven
and you're not happy about Rashard Bateman.
They've proven they will do that no matter who they have back there, no matter who they have at wide receiver. Rashard Bateman
with you, Andrew.
That's great, but if you run
on their team.
If you run the offense through those guys,
wide receiver on my team.
If you're constantly in 3rd and 7, somebody's got to catch that 3rd and 7 pass. And yes, they have Mark Andrews.
Mark Andrews also has. Mark it down.
So Marquise Brown was worthless on this team the last.
No, that's not the opposite of my point. Marquise Brown was the best it was going to get on this team in the last few years, and
so you wouldn't have taken Marquise Brown.
What my point is, Rashard Bateman is not Marquise Brown. That's my point.
No,
that's right.
A route runner though.
Yeah. Don't get that twisted. He's not Brown. All right, he's not that.
So yeah, he's not as fast as Brown, but he's a better route runner than Brown. You look at him in Minnesota tape. His Minnesota tape was freaking off the charts. And then, like I said, I always go back to this, but his camp tape last year when he was going against Marlon Humphrey at the time, an all-pro corner, he was smoking him all day long. So I am all in on getting Rashard Bateman at a price. If he's valued there at my wide receiver 4.
Sure,
I will take him all day long.
I'll take him as wide receiver 4.
He is my wide receiver 1. I will not feel happy about my draft for sure.
In Dynasty, I'll take him.
You're going up against the rocks if he's your wide receiver 1 on your team.
Yeah, you
matter of fact, you may not be on the rocks. You may be upside down.
But if you're on a Dynasty format, in a dynasty format, if you've got Rashad Bateman, the Baltimore Ravens #1, Lamar Jackson's #1, if he's your wide receiver 4, you've got about as good a wide receiver situation as Kevin does with a quarterback situation, allegedly, in whatever league this is. We haven't heard who's ahead of Trubisky. Between Trubisky and Russell Wilson.
It's Kenny Pickett, Trevor Lawrence.
I got Wilson. I got
there's no
Foles,
Trevor Lawrence going on. Although
Jordan
I would
Love.
take him on my team if that was a possibility. All right.
No,
And don't get me twisted. Rashard Bateman has value at the
He
Justin
does
said.
have value.
You're right.
He's not a
he's
starting
not.
wide receiver for me on my team, though. He's a bench guy I'm hoping takes off.
You're
And then
right
he'll-
that he's not
Lamar
Marquise
thing?
Brown, but Marquise Brown is also like my height, and Rashad Bateman is an actual wide receiver height. Like,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I think you're underselling Bateman. I'm not all in on him. I think
Sure.
you're underselling him.
Okay, and that's fair enough.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Can we get to Joe Burrow yet?
Yeah,
That's an
Let's
easy
guess-
question, though.
Let's get. Well, and that's the thing. Honestly, I saved the Bengals for last because I think the Bengals are the most out of all 4 of these teams in this division. They do have the most cut and dry situation because we saw pretty much the ceiling of all these guys last year. Maybe not T. Higgins because of the injury, so I think there's still to be seen on T. Higgins, but I think we know what we're getting in the Bengals. And I think we know that the sky is still the limit for Burrow and for Chase, and
That's the thing.
Mixon is still viable for a few years here in Dynasty.
Absolutely.
Did we see the ceiling for these guys, or did we see a quarterback learning how to be a quarterback in the NFL?
That's
and now what the
and
hell
that is
are we
also-
doing?
100% it.
That is also a
Oh,
fantastic
That's
point.
100%
Yes.
it.
But we definitely saw more than we expected out of this team last year. I think anybody would say that. So yes, I think fair enough. Maybe I worded that wrong. The ceiling may not be seen yet, but we saw higher than a ceiling than we expected last
A
year.
glimpse of what we might, of what can
Yes,
be with this
that's
team.
more so what I was trying to say. Thank you for clarifying that. And that's why I saved them for last, because I do feel like, look, the fact that someone like Tyler Boyd, who going into last season, before that was seen as like a chain mover, target monster kind of guy, is now their number 3 receiver. Between Chase and Higgins, like that's fantastic depth there for them. Joe Mixon is still going to lead that backfield. I'm not worried about anybody coming up behind him.
And Joe Mixon is still only 25 years old.
Yes, that's why these guys are all still dynasty format beyond relevant. They're guys that I want on my team moving forward.
Yes.
And it seems like we all agree. Does anybody have any other thoughts on anybody on this team? Someone that
What about the tight end?
Fair point, because we got someone like Hayden Hurst.
Hayden Hurst has been a guy.
There you go.
He's been a guy
Hayden
before.
Hurst. I like him a lot. So if he was out there and I needed a tight end, I'd go get him.
So here's the
Go
thing.
get
I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I remember watching a lot of games last year and thinking Burrow looks CJ Uzomah's way a lot in the red zone, it seemed, and in key situations. So does he do the same with Hayden Hurst now? Because we even saw guys like Drew Sample, who's still on the team, who when guys like Uzomah and who I forget who else they had a tight end last year. I'm blanking now, but
Drew Sample.
That's what I'm talking about now. But when Drew Sample had to step up because of injuries, he wasn't someone that you were going to play in DFS or anything, but he was someone who was a serviceable tight end, a spot start just to get you a couple points so you don't take a 0. So how do we feel about Hayden? So Kevin likes Hayden Hurst. The jury's still up with me on Hayden Hurst, but Justin and Chase, do you guys have an opinion on Hurst?
If it was anything other than the tight end position, I wouldn't be up big on him at all. But it is a tight end position, and there's 10 that you can depend on.
Yeah, I'm not big on Sample or Hayden Hurst this year.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all.
Sample, no. You cut him loose, but Hayden Hurst, I think he's got value.
Hayden Hurst does have value. I mean, let's not forget he was tight end 11 a couple of years ago.
Right. He just got beat out by Andrews and he got beat out by Pitt. There's nothing wrong with that.
He is a decent tight end. He is capable of doing the job. If he can stay healthy. This is not necessarily a tight end centric offense, especially when you've got Tyler Boyd, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And they still like to run the ball, and they should, because they've got Joe Mixon. But Hayden Hurst is capable of good things at tight end. I think if you can grab him as your backup, if you can grab him as your second tight end,
Chase. I agree with you 100%. You're in great shape.
I would definitely take him as a second. He's a second tight end who has.
He's not your first tight end. Right? You're right about that.
He has backup correct. First. it depends what size league are you in. If you're in a 16-team league, Hayden Hurst might be a starter. He might be a tight end.
You're getting that high up in there, yeah.
But
sure, that's fair.
He's got some value. There's no question that Chase and Higgins and even Boyd, there's no question that Mixon, there's no question that Burrow has tremendous value. They are must takes on your roster. I don't think that's why it's okay that we left the Bengals for last, because there just were no questions. If there's no questions, there's nothing to talk about. Hayden Hurst might be the tight end position, might be the one area on this team that's an if. Because we're not talking obviously, and even Crimenes, if we're talking in that way, even their kicker is a must-have. If you play in a league with kickers, take McPherson, because you're going to do worse than that. But Hurst is the one question they have. But he has
got
been
ice
a guy
in his
before.
veins.
Right? He does. That's the thing.
Goes up to his quarterback.
I would love to have him on any team I cheer for.
So here's what's interesting about Hurst for me is that I do think, because of the way that offense is already pretty much solidified, I see the tight ends being more in the blocking schemes than in the passing schemes. So I see them, because look, that offensive line needed some help, and I think they went out and got some in draft and offseason and whatnot. But I do think they're still going to use those tight ends to solidify the blocking schemes. So I don't see them being a massive part. But look, like you said, you hit a certain point in the tight end class and across the league where if you don't get like one of 6 or 7 guys, you might as well just wait till the last round and take whoever's there. And Hayden Hurst could be there. You could do worse. I mean, at that point, you're going to be cycling guys in and out every week anyways. So there could be some matchups that you can exploit with Hayden Hurst, but he's not someone I'm targeting.
Uzama was a tight end 2 last year, no matter how deep your league was, no matter what kind of format you were. But he also hadn't really ever shown more than that in his career. I mean, he sat behind Tyler Eifert for a while, the perennial carrot on a stick at the tight end position.
He was
right. God,
he's been replaced by Evan Ingram in the tight end.
You're right. No, that's such a perfect way to put it.
Him and Eifert are like the same person.
Oh, this guy's so good. Yeah, but he's going to play like 12 and a half minutes this year. I'm going to get nothing out of him. But Uzama sat behind it. Uzama's a decent tight end, but he was a tight end 2. But I think Hurst has shown that he can be a tight end 1. He has been a tight end 1 before. You can do worse especially if you're discounting the tight end league. If you're not in a tight end heavy, type scoring format or bonuses or anything like that.
Yep.
Hayden Hurst, you could do worse than to look that direction, especially for your tight end 2.
Well, we will end it there on Hayden Hurst because we are just got a couple minutes left here. And as always, I want to make sure we have opportunities to let everybody have a chance to let everyone know where we can find you. So with a couple minutes left here, Justin, you have the honors first here. What do you got going on? I know I mentioned TSS, but talk more about that. Talk more about what you got coming out for articles or anything else you have.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me on, guys. As usual, it's a great time. For TSS right now, we're currently doing our summer vacation. So we are going to every single team. We are bringing on super fans, analysts, beat reporters. We've even gotten a couple players here and there, former players, which was really cool. And this week we're going to have our special, our big one is going to be the Green Bay Packers one. It's not because it's just the Green Bay Packers, but it's because we're going to have future Hall of Fame inductee Leroy Butler coming on this week.
Yeah.
It's going to be freaking awesome.
That's massive.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. The inventor of the leap.
Yes, sir. It's gonna be something else. We're also having our giveaway for a Justin Jefferson signed jersey. We're gonna give it away on 4th of July. We're gonna give our fans a big bang because we're gonna give somebody a 4th of July present of a Justin Jefferson signed jersey. And then my other podcast.
Sign me up, Justin, for that.
Hey, go subscribe. You're good.
I subscribe. You know that.
Well, then you're already in the contest. You know. All right, give me $20 at the end, and we'll talk about it.
Okay. All right. No worries.
Let's keep it moving though, Justin. What else you got there?
Yeah. But otherwise, Dynasty Brews podcast on every Thursday.
Fantastic. And if you haven't checked that out, you guys just had a super show for Dynasty Brews, which was awesome too. So good shit there. It's going well over there for you.
Yes, sir.
Real fast, Chasing Kevin. Just remind everyone where they can find you. We got a few seconds left here.
Okay, so you can find me at Kevin62 WILSEA on Twitter. And as I was saying, I'm on vacation right now, so that's about all you're going to find from me for a little bit.
Okay.
Check me out on bellyupfantasy.com. Check that out. I'll have articles out. I've got some in the works right now, brewing this week. Obviously, you can always catch me on STT Chase FFB on Twitter. And as Pat McAfee would say, it's up to something season. So you might see something else coming from me soon too. So
Fantastic.
stay tuned.
And as always, you can find me at Real Mr. Mallard, at Divots and Pivots for the golf show. Look out for my updates from Scott Fishbowl this year. Draft will be coming up soon, a week or so here. So we are all ready. See you next week, everyone.